Paulie pointed out this story to me. I think it's via Darren Rovell, ESPN sports business reporter. Final out, last year's World Series, Chicago Cubs finally win the World Series, and first base was auctioned off for $100,000. Is that right, Paulie?
That's the report. Do you think it would have gone for a lot more if there was first base from
At Wrigley?
Yeah.
Yes. Because now the Indians gave them first base, right? Unless you just pick it up like you're Ricky Henderson and hold it above your head and say you're the greatest of all time. Let's bring in Darren Rovell, the mothership. Is that how this played out, Darren? That they auctioned off?
No, the way it works, Major League Baseball. It's Major League Baseball's property.
Okay.
So they were rotating in and out bases and all these things for Game 7. So this is actually the base just from innings 9 and 10. The Cubs won it in the 10th. So it's a 2-inning. I don't know how many people actually touched the base. We'd have to go back, but it's $101,000, and it might not seem like that much in the game-used auction world, but I could only find there were a couple like Jeter game bases that went for in the $40,000 range. Nothing even close. Like other World Series bases went for like $7,000-8,000. So collecting game-used bases really isn't a thing, and just to see what some of these sold for last night, $100,000 for this. The Cubs on deck circle from games 1, 2, 6, and 7 sold for $40,000. And for some reason, I guess an Indians fan purchased the John Lester wild pitch ball that scored 2 Indians runs. It went up 5-3 in the 7th for $11,000.
Oh my gosh! But explain this to me though. Is this normal that they swap out the bases for auction?
Yeah, I mean, Major League Baseball now has a robust business of not only authenticating gear, but selling gear. If you go to any Major League Baseball, listen, in 1985, I wanted to get a St. Patrick's Day jersey from the Mets that they wore during spring training. I wrote a letter, and guess what? They sent me one. It doesn't work that way anymore. Now, all these parks have, authentic shops, and they're generating opportunities to have game-used stuff. And so when I was at the Diamondbacks, just a regular opener for the Diamondbacks this year, every 3 innings they're swapping out bases, authenticating them, tagging them with holograms. I mean, yeah, and especially for big games, it's now moved to a point of insanity where all these guys, by the way, who are authenticating them are former police officers. They're putting down the hologram. They're scanning the hologram. They're going to the back rooms. They're watching it with their eyes, and then it goes to be sold. So this is a major operation.
Is the NFL doing the same? The other sports doing the same?
The NFL does it. The NBA does it. The NHL does it a little bit, but nothing like baseball. Baseball's in a class of its own.
All right. Well, that leads us to the Eli Manning topic. And how did this story come to light?
About 3 years ago, there was just a story about a guy who originally it was, hey, there's this disgruntled, former memorabilia guy who bought 275 jerseys from the Giants, and the Giants had said on various occasions that they weren't real, even though the equipment manager had told him through, direct sales that, this is the genuine item. He was the plaintiff, the guy who sued the Giants and Eli Manning, was indicted for essentially memorabilia fraud by a federal grand jury in 2011, and then the FBI, the feds couldn't find anything. And so the charges were dropped, and then he basically said, I know who did this. Now, whether they did or not, the Giants are the ones who pointed me to the feds and said I was the one making, fake memorabilia. The truth is that they are. And started this process with this lawsuit, which in the beginning was less detailed than it is now, but essentially that the equipment manager for the Giants, had an operation to allegedly manufacture stuff to be game used when it was not, and that Eli Manning, he had heard as part of conversations, was not only complicit in it, but was very well aware of what was going on.
Is this a misdemeanor or a felony for Eli? The potential.
Right now, it's a civil case. If it was a criminal case, and it was still within the statute of limitations, which it is no longer. Every allegation in here is either 5 years old, at least 5 years old, or almost to the point of 5 years old, which means that a criminal case could not be brought against the Giants and the equipment manager and Eli Manning. So right now, it is just a civil action. And there is a big differentiator here, because obviously if Eli Manning and the Giants and the equipment manager were facing racketeering and fraud charges at the criminal level, then it might not even be up to the NFL to do anything. They could be in jail if they were indeed found to have done this. So right now what we have is a civil case which got ratcheted up last week when the plaintiffs basically submitted to the court an email from Eli's AOL email in 2010, believe it or not, still using AOL.
I know.
Good job, Eli. But that basically saying, asking the equipment manager if he could get 2 helmets that would, quote, pass as game used, which obviously that terminology is a little bit strange and is the first kind of evidence the plaintiffs say that Eli Manning was very well aware of the manufacture of game-used memorabilia.
Has Eli spoken?
No. Nothing since this email, which is all I'd want to hear. I would just say what's interesting is that a lot of these organizations, NFL in particular, come off as very, very arrogant to begin with, and I'm not saying that they're guilty here. I'm just saying that their arrogance certainly does come off, and I don't know. I think that sometimes hurts them in situations like this. So we'll see what this email does. There's a hard and fast trial date of September 25th. And we'll see if it makes it to trial or if this email is kind of going to lead to some sort of settlement.
Darren, thanks for joining us. Stay on the case there.
I will.
All right, buddy. That's Darren Rovell, ESPN Sports Business Reporter. The thing about swapping out the bases I found interesting. Like you just, and are those, is the money donated to charity? Does Major League Baseball... I you know what? I'm sorry. That's one of the funnier things I've probably said. I hope that it would be charitable. That Major League Baseball would be swapping out these bases. That'd be a nice story
for the kids.
Yeah, it's always for the kids.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.